So
Hello.
I got a fan going. Is that a problem?
I don't hear it, so
Good.
should be fine.
No air conditioning. Fun stuff.
Do you not have one, or is it broke?
Broke.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I don't have mine up here going. It's a little bit hot. Do we have classic ideas for next week, or not yet?
I don't yet, no.
All right. Okay.
Always have my allergies right before we start. Every time.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right.
All right. Oh, where's my phone? Forgot about that part. Are you ready?
Maybe not. Claritin is failing me. All right, I think I should be all right now.
I gave up on Claritin.
Yeah.
Pretty much straight Zyrtec or Allegra. And Claritin works for taking it every day, I guess. It's almost better as a preventative. All right, let me get this ready and then we can go. All right, hitting record, and here goes the intro you won't hear. Wrong intro. All right, take two. Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. We are also streaming live on YouTube every Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Monday night, depending on my schedule for now. There will be links on our social media with the live stream if you want to watch along. We're also on all your podcatchers, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, YouTube as well. And subscribe to the show there, rate and review the show. And we have contests if you do give us a 5-star review. Sean, tell me a little bit about that.
We've got Blu-rays we're giving away for a couple of different movies, Deliver Us from Evil and The Great War of Archimedes. They're both, you can find descriptions of each on the Facebook page, but it's a Blu-ray. We'll give it to you if you give us a 5-star review. We've got 9 available.
And I do check the Apple reviews, but I don't know where the other ones are. So if you do leave a review, sounds like you don't know, but there's a lot of things to check, and I'm busy. So if you do leave us a review, either hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or email us at critics@ihatecritics.net, and we'll read your review on the air and make sure we get your copy to you.
Yep.
You can also go to our social media pages and see the link to the giveaway. Patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to support the podcast. Get yourself a credit on the show. And then TeePublic, if you go to ihatecritics.net, there's a little TeePublic link. Get yourself some podcast merch. This is not our podcast merch that I'm wearing today like I normally do. But I do have, I'm using a notebook, Batman versus Jesus. So, yeah, check us out there. Help us out on any of those platforms. And let's get the show started. And let's bring up the pictures. And Here we go. We'll start with In the Heights.
In the Heights from Lin-Manuel Miranda, based upon a Broadway play that he did several years ago. Tells the story of a neighborhood, Washington Heights in New York City, where a group of Latinos, really a group of a large number of different people living in this neighborhood, and just their day-to-day life as this neighborhood seems to be changing a great deal, possibly in ways that are going to reshape the entire neighborhood the way it looks. There's more gentrification. There are different types of businesses are moving in that are more expensive and high end, and it's pushing others out of the neighborhood. And these changes are chronicled via a series of musical numbers. The lead character is a young man who owns a store. He wants to leave, however, and move down to the Dominican, where his father used to run a bar, and he wants to run a bar down there. He's basically saved up enough money to purchase it and to operate it, and so he's leaving. The other side of the group, on the other side of the coin, Jimmy Smits is a character who runs a car service, who is a big part of the community, but he's having to give up a lot of his money to pay for his daughter to go to college, and he may actually have to sell his entire business in order to do that. There's a hair salon as well that is also in this neighborhood that is planning to leave for a higher end neighborhood because they can make more money. There's no real plot necessarily. This is a lot of just a series of songs and interconnected relationships, and there's nothing bad about In the Heights. And I do sense what people enjoy about this because it is a joyous celebration of music and community. I just find the movie to be innocuous, safe. There's nothing special about it. On top of which, a lot of the songs use the same cadence as the songs from Hamilton. And I realize that In the Heights happened before Hamilton, but I'm only aware of Hamilton prior to this. And so when I hear the same hip hop cadence in this movie that I heard in Hamilton, it seems derivative. It feels derivative to me. Again, I'm not aware. I've not seen In the Heights as a musical prior to Hamilton, so I don't have that information. As much as I know, I think people have pointed this out to me. Oh, this happened before. Why are you saying it's derivative? It is derivative to me. It may not be to you, but it is to me because I didn't have the experience of this beforehand. It doesn't feel as special after Hamilton, because Hamilton feels still today to me to be very special. And with this coming after Hamilton in terms of being a film presentation, it doesn't feel as special. It doesn't feel as interesting. It feels like this is just doing the same thing. I just didn't feel this the way I felt Hamilton, and that's on me, I guess. I had maybe higher expectations of this than perhaps too high expectations of this based off of how much I love Hamilton. And I think that kind of holds me back from feeling really big things about this movie.
Yeah, I didn't see it, and I mean, I suppose the way I'm viewing your criticism, you're being much nicer on the show. Not that your review was mean when I read it,
right?
But I can definitely tell you read some other critics, and you're even sharing their reviews.
Yeah,
which I read as well. But it reminds me of like AC/DC, like Back in Black is great, and everything after that was derivative of it, but they're still good,
right?
And so
there's also there's a lightness to this. Like there's a sort of I don't want to call it transgressiveness to Hamilton, but just it takes power from having a historical story being told by people of color, and that's sort of oddly transgressive in its way because of the story that they're telling and who it's about. And it's got that, that punch from history to carry it forward. And this just doesn't. Like, one of the songs here is about how great this guy's coffee is. And that's never going to match up to some the stuff that's happening in Hamilton.
But I mean, looking at the trailer and what it's about, this could have had more of a punch. I mean, there is a story here that could be more punchy, and it sounds like they didn't go with it, or they didn't go with it hard enough.
I think what you're talking about is the Dreamer stuff, and that came about after this, had been already made, and so they kind of went back and drew that into the story. afterwards, and so they couldn't necessarily take advantage of that.
Would it have been better with it out? Because I mean, watching the trailer, I mean, made me kind of expect that was going to be more of a focal point of the movie. And again, I didn't know about this until the movie I started seeing trailers.
Right.
So that's why I wonder if you're not expecting the punch, would it? If you can just watch it for what it is, would it have worked more? And maybe putting that Dreamer stuff in the trailer as much as they did.
Yeah, I don't know if that was necessarily a good move. Putting it in the trailer, it kind of created a lot of expectations about this having a more of a political vibe, and there's no political vibe in this movie at all, aside from two scenes, maybe.
It is on HBO Max and in theaters if you're interested in seeing it.
It's not a bad movie by any stretch, and like I'm the only critic in the world who said anything even remotely negative about it.
Yeah, and if the songs are fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Just because they're not as awesome as Hamilton's songs doesn't make them bad. All right, let's move on. Holler.
This is the best movie this week, undoubtedly. This is a movie by director Nicole Riegel, and it's set in Jackson, Ohio, where the director is from. She actually grew up in this area and doing what these characters in this movie do, which is scrapping, not stealing, but just gathering as much metals as you can and trading it for cash at these places that take metal for cash. And her and her brother are kind of on the very, very, very low end of the economic spectrum. Their mother, played by Pamela Adlon, is in jail for part of her drug addiction, and they end up getting this opportunity from this guy who owns a scrapyard to join his crew that kind of scraps in a way that is rather illegal and very dangerous. There are all these former factories in Ohio, these empty factories that have been empty for years, corporations that ran off to Mexico, leaving behind these massive metal contraptions. And they're guarded because these companies still own these places. They just sit there empty. And so there are targets of people who steal, the most expensive metals. And they fall in with that crew. And that's a dangerous thing to be part of. And we certainly see the danger of that. Meanwhile, she's also on a college track. She's actually earned her way towards potentially getting a scholarship because her brother actually put her up for one. And there's a good chance that she could get out of this. And so there's a great deal, a dual track of suspense there, whether or not she even wants to leave. Does she actually enjoy this? Does she actually like this life? She certainly she loves her brother and is afraid to leave him, especially if she's going to leave him in this situation where he's continuing to do this very dangerous activity. This is a really well-made movie. It's very compelling. Jessica Barton is the star, and she's fantastic. It all feels very authentic. And I really love this movie. I had a conversation with Nicole Riegel, which is out now on my other show. And she was talking about how we actually got to that thing about, I didn't mention Hillbilly Elegy by name, but I did talk about how Hollywood represents this part of the country by hairstyle. And she's like, yes, I wanted to avoid that by all means.
That's hilarious. Is this her first movie?
This is, yes.
That's cool. It kind of reminds me, without necessarily the goofy humor, of like the show Shameless, where the kids are, they're all special in their own way and they have a chance to get out of this and just keep not doing it. And I love that show. So I'm definitely interested in this movie. I wasn't able to get to it this week, but that's very cool. It looks very good. I like the poster.
Yeah, it's got a great look.
That's awesome. We're just moving right along this week. Apologize to everybody.
Sorry.
I have seen this one, so let's go ahead with The Amusement Park. George Romero's The Amusement Park.
Yeah, this is a weird one. So 1973, I think it was, George Romero was hired by the Lutheran League of Pennsylvania to direct a movie that was intended to show the struggles of aging and how we should try and do more for our elderly population. And I guess they didn't realize who they hired because instead of making a PSA about how difficult it is to be aged in this society, he made this, which is this weird experimental art movie, which is kind of about the difficulties of aging. If you read between the lines, a man in a pitch perfect white suit walks into a room where a version of himself is already sitting, battered and beaten and bloody and crying. And he's kind of curious, like, why are you like this? Why don't you leave? Why don't you get up and go outside? Come on with me. We'll go outside together. And the man just refuses. And the man who is well dressed and looking nice is going to find out why he's already sitting in that room, bleeding and bloodied and crying. He walks out into this amusement park, and immediately he's just set upon by crowds of people, and it's very overwhelming. He ends up getting in line to purchase tickets, but instead of people buying tickets, it's people selling their most prized possessions so that they can buy tickets to go to this amusement park. He goes on a ride, and it's disorienting and frightening for him, and a lot of symbolism going on here. Is the movie scary? It's weird. I know it's weird. It's a weird movie. I didn't connect with it the way a lot of people did. This is another one, like In the Heights is at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I didn't really go for either one.
This one's more about to me, the backstory than it is the movie itself, because it's like you said, it's a PSA. It's an educational film directed by George Romero, and educational films don't need symbolism because they're educational films. So he goes off and makes a movie with symbolism in it, and it's over the top. It's really neat looking. The way that old people walk like, I mean, I shouldn't say it looks like a Romero movie. They're walking around like zombies, and I don't mind the image, the imagery, I guess, but the movie itself was like, it's not great. It's not entertaining per se. It's just weird, and he made an art film instead of an educational film, which, in a way, I appreciate that because it's kind of funny, but it's still. It's not a movie.
It's only 53 minutes. Yeah.
Right. So it's just kind of, and the educational stuff is very not realistic at all because it's like Sean said, it's symbolism. They're using a lot of that. So it's just kind of the idea of what happened is neat to me. And that's kind of where it begins and ends. And I feel like people are bringing that to their reviews. It's not really a movie.
It doesn't.
At least that's my opinion.
It's just a series of things that happen. One scene has him in bumper cars, and he witnesses what appears to be these people start acting out this bumper car situation where an old lady's bumper car hits a young man's bumper car, and they treat it like it's an actual accident. And he gets involved and says it was the young man's fault, and the cop won't believe him because he's old and he didn't have his glasses on, and disrespects him. Another scene has him, for some reason, at the amusement park. He's buying his groceries and he can't carry them all by himself, and nobody is willing to help him. And I guess that's symbolic of a society that refuses to help old people even carry their groceries. Which, I get what you're saying, but why is it here? Why is this happening? Why is he buying groceries?
It's like the worst thing that can happen to any elderly person happens to everybody in this amusement park. So it gets to the point where you start rolling your eyes a little bit, at least in terms of the point of the movie. But at the same time, it's a little bit, there's a little bit of art in it, which takes away from the educational part of the film. And
there's some really big visual elements that are, classically Romero, I guess.
But that's, I know, it's almost more just like the punk rock feel of it because it's supposed to be, it was for hire, it was something he didn't want to do, and they just said, hey, will you make this for us? And then they saw it and they were like, "What the hell is this?" And they never released it.
Yeah, they
And
threw it in a
now,
basement somewhere, and somebody just happened to find it. And yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think anything beyond the big Romero fans or even the horror fans are good. I know it's got a good review, but I don't think every critic's watching this movie. If I'm being honest. All right, what do we got next? Take Me Somewhere Nice.
Take Me Somewhere Nice is a Danish movie. It's a foreign film about a young woman who travels to Croatia, where her father, who she's not seen in many years, is, and he is in a hospital and he's dying. The She wants to go see him. Sorry, I need a minute. Sorry.
Fine.
I'm gonna turn my video off. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm having a lot of trouble here. I think it's having the windows open is the problem. It's gonna get very hot in here, but I'll have to deal with it because I'm getting pollen or something. Oh. Sorry, this is very distracting.
You're fine.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna hit record now. All right, go. Whenever you're ready.
Take Me Somewhere Nice is a Danish film about a woman whose father is Croatian. He lives in Croatia. She's going to see him as he is supposedly dying, or he is dying in a hospital in Croatia. She's never been to Croatia. She can barely speak the language, and she doesn't know anybody in Croatia aside from a cousin she's not seen in many, many years. Her mother arranges for her to be able to go, but doesn't go with her. She arrives in Croatia. Her cousin is just a total jerk who just absolutely not helpful at all to her in this situation. And he basically says he's not going to take her. She falls in with one of his friends, Dennis, and the two just kind of throw down and have sex like right away, which is cool. It's like it's the best sex scene in the movie that has several of them, because it's just two people who are just kind of bored and just kind of like each other and want to have sex. And it's like, yeah, I get that. I get the fun of that. It makes sense to me. There are other sex scenes in this movie though that are kind of weird and out there, and kind of, one of them is just kind of really off-putting, and that tends to happen in this movie. This is a movie that doesn't have much of a story. She decides to go on her own to try and get to the hospital. She ends up being left behind by her bus, and she kind of falls in with a couple of different people. She considers actually going into prostitution for a short bit just to try and make some money because she doesn't have her bags. They were left on the bus. She and then the cousin and Dennis show up, and they do help her, and they do take her eventually. And it's a lot of road movie stuff, and and a lot of people have said these are very funny things. I didn't find this funny. This is another 99% movie on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't get what people saw in this movie. I didn't find it funny. I found the look of the movie is incredible. Like the director, Ina Senda-Jarevic, is incredible in terms of being a director. She's got some really terrific visual sense. She really make a lot of scenes really pop. She makes interesting choices on her angles, and cinematography is just fantastic. But the other aspects of it, like the weird sex stuff, it's I've read other critics who are praising her sexual liberation, and I kind of find that maybe that this is more of an American thing. Like when we see characters now that female characters especially who are openly sexual, we praise that. And really, I think in Europe, it's just more of a like, yeah, no, she just likes to have sex. It's a perfectly normal thing to do. You guys are just really repressed. So, yeah, you're right. I find that that I didn't find that aspect of it to be that interesting, because it's like, yeah, she likes to have sex. Good for her.
Well, the review in the Times says haywire sexuality. Now, does that just mean a lot of sex, or is it like weird sex?
It's weird sex.
Okay.
Two of the scenes are very weird. And I don't want to spoil anything, because one of the scenes comes at the end in a very bizarre circumstance, then I spent a lot of time thinking about the circumstance of it and trying to understand like what the point of this was, and I couldn't, and I just got frustrated. And I just don't think that's the experience of this movie that the director wants me to have. I don't know why any director would want to leave the audience just frustrated. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it dramatic. I found it weird, and I found it didn't make any sense to me. I can't really spoil this movie because it's not a movie that has any kind of twists or turns to it. It's not a movie that has like a typical beginning, middle, and end. It's an experience movie, and it, as an experience movie, I can definitely see what some people like about it. Maybe it would play better in a theater instead of me watching it on a screen or at home, where you can't escape from it. Maybe, but I still don't see what other people saw in this movie. There are surreal scenes, but I didn't feel like I felt the surreality of it. It doesn't really underline how surreal it all is very well. Even a scene where she and her cousin and Dennis are carrying her father's coffin in this vehicle that is not built to carry a coffin. And they get pulled over by police. It's supposed to be surreal and dark and I guess funny, but I didn't find any of it funny. And that's just kind of my experience of this movie. Like I said, it's an incredibly visual movie, and Sendai Jarevich is a terrific director of visual action, but in terms of the story, I just didn't buy into any aspect of the story.
Is there any element of, back to the sexuality of it, the fact that we are American, is that because some of the ways, men treat women and act, and we, when you say weird and something like that in America, I could see just uncomfortable is a word that comes to my mind, and that I would feel just based on reactions I've seen in movies before, people I know, blah, blah, blah. Is it possible because we're American, it's really not as uncomfortable as it feels, or at least that's kind of how I haven't seen it. I'm just kind of asking the question if it would play funnier over, in a different, in a more modern culture than ours.
Maybe, yeah, because like I said, every other critic who's seen this movie seems to love it. And I'm sure the overseas critics seem to take to it a great deal. So that's certainly possible, but I just did not connect with this in that way. I was like I said, I find a lot of this movie very impressive, and I do want to see what Ina Sendai Jarevich is going to do next. But this movie, as it is, it's just the strangeness of the sex scenes. The two of them that I'm not really describing very well. The movie, I'll just tell you this. The movie ends on a scene of her just washing herself. and I really do think like it comes, if this were a male director, we would only talk about the way that he films her thighs in this movie. We would only talk about that. If this were a male director, that would be the only thing we talk about. Because it borders on fetishism at points. Yeah. Even though there's no nudity in the movie. There's no nudity.
That's cool. Yeah, that is like I'm struggling with the idea of again, like you said, if it's a male director, we'd be treating it differently, but does that come back on us again, or the fact that other male directors in the past that have been wrong? I don't know. It's such a it's a weird. Like I'm just totally uncomfortable.
Maybe that's the transgressive aspect I'm missing, is that this is a female director who appears to be objectifying this young woman as opposed to a male director, and maybe that's supposed to be the point. I just didn't get it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our classic.
Already? Oh wow, we are
we're flying right through here. All right, here comes the bumper that you can't hear. And to those listening at home, I know you can hear the bumpers, but the YouTube audience and Sean cannot. So I have a bad cord, and I've had it for about a few months now. But anyway, The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yes, so 1938, starring Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland, and directed by Michael Curtiz, the director of Casablanca, and one of my all-time favorite directors. He's such an interesting guy, and he's such an incredible talent that really I'm surprised more people don't talk about. The way we talk about Alfred Hitchcock and the way we talk about other Billy Wilder, other classic directors, we don't talk about Curtiz in the same way because he doesn't have a great reputation as a nice person. He doesn't. Actors loved Alfred Hitchcock. Aside from the way women talk about him today, actors did love him back in the day. The same goes for Wilder, and the directors who are well remembered in that way are all beloved by groups of actors. And Curtiz was never beloved by anybody. He was a demanding guy, and he and Errol Flynn hated each other, which is great to know because Errol Flynn's a terrible human being if you drill down on his life. But he's fantastic in this movie, though, as the legendary character Robin Hood, who robs from the rich to give to the poor. And this is a smiling, happy adventure that really Cary Elwes really remade in Robin Hood Men in Tights. There's a lot of touches in this movie that are directly from that movie, or directly from this movie, which is nice. The introduction of Robin to Prince John is the same scene, essentially, with him carrying a deer into the hall and dropping it on the table. It's essentially the same scene, which is great. You can tell that Mel Brooks watched this version of Robin Hood a lot. And it's a typical Robin Hood story. He gathers his merry men in Sherwood Forest, and they battle Prince John and a guy of Gisborne, who's a interesting character who's been kind of forgotten in many other different versions of this story. And interesting to note here, and we're going to talk about another movie that inspired the choice of this in a moment, but how this one has the Sheriff of Nottingham almost absent. He's a cowardly fat guy who just kind of hides from all the action throughout the movie, which is an interesting way to play that character, who becomes over time the most important character in terms of being a villain in the Robin Hood series. I really enjoyed a lot of this in terms of the Technicolor shooting, in terms of Olivia de Havilland's performance, the supporting cast. Basil Rathbone is fantastic, and the fight scenes. Curtiz was specifically hired to build up the fight scenes in the movie, and he did most of the interior shooting in this movie, and that's why those fight scenes are so spectacular. The sword fighting in the movie is very realistic. They used real swords, and they used real sword choreography. At one point, Curtiz really wanted it to look real, so he had a guy take the tip off his sword, and he accidentally kind of stabbed Errol Flynn a little bit.
Accidentally.
Accidentally. Oh yeah, this movie's really good, and the fight scene between Basil Rathbone and Errol Flynn, using the shadows at one point, and just the sound design and the footwork, it's immaculate. It's phenomenal. It just looks great, and that's really the hallmark of Curtiz is his ability to capture scenes like that. It is a bit light and airy in terms of the types of it doesn't really have much in terms of the political themes of Robin Hood. We get a whole lot of things about Normans and Saxons and so on, which who cares? And not a lot about the actual class warfare. We get a sense of that Prince John is harming people, but not as much a sense as we'll get from other Robin Hood stories of the damage that he's doing to people. And that political element, it would have given this movie maybe a little bit more weight. As it is, it's very light as it is.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. It's so ingrained in pop culture, though. That's having never seen this and then watching it. I feel like I'd already seen it while I'm watching it because of the cartoon. Even the one we're going to talk about, it still follows the same story, but Robin Hood, Men in Tights, all that, the pop culture that's referenced this movie is, and I've seen it so many times in so many different variations. That I felt like I had already seen it, and so it was hard to be. And it wasn't like like when we watched Dracula or Frankenstein, like those still, I don't know what about those, because those are so ingrained in pop culture too, but something about those felt better. And this
I
is
think those are
fine.
still I think those are still the best versions of those stories. I think
That
that's the
could that
difference.
You're probably right. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And I
And,
don't think this is necessarily the best version of this story.
okay.
It's certainly the most. I think it's maybe other than Robin Hood Men in Tights the most fun Robin Hood movie. Other ones get too serious. Other ones get completely too serious. Like the most recent ones with Russell Crowe and the one that they made that was like Zero Dark 30 Robin Hood. Like,
Not the Taron Egerton one.
yeah, that one is utter garbage.
And that probably should have been the best. Like that's the one that you had the right cast, the right age. How do you screw that one up?
It
They
is
did.
it is amazing how they managed to screw that up. And yeah, so bad. It's such a terrible movie.
It's so bad I forgot it existed. My brother was telling me about it yesterday, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that movie." But this is just, I mean, airy is a great way to, fun and, light is a good way to describe this movie.
The look is incredible too. I mean, the heavily saturated colors, the 3-color Technicolor shooting that they used is fun. And yeah, the introductions of the characters are great. It's really, aside from Will Scarlet, who's just kind of there.
Well, and Errol Flynn looks like such a douchebag, and like, I mean, it works. It works in a way, but it's because you kind of know his backstory. You can just kind of, and you don't know if he was an asshole before this or the fame of this made him more, but you could just kind of totally see I mean, he just looks like a guy you want to punch. And that kind of hurts,
Right.
hurts it a little bit, but that's not fair to the movie because it's his reputation is, I don't know what it was back in 1938, but definitely in 2021, it hurts it a little bit, but not enough to make it bad. It's still good enough. And
the episode of the dollop on Errol Flynn is a journey, to say the least. It is quite the journey. There's a anecdote that Dave shares from Errol's life from when he was a young man, and his family had ducks, and he fed the ducks a piece of meat on a string, and as the duck would pass it through one duck, it would pass through to another duck, and another duck would eat it. And then he had a series of ducks on a string. Just because he's a horrible monster of a child.
Like a duck centipede?
Like a duck centipede, yes. He bought a woman. He bought a couple of different women over time, just randomly purchasing women from their fathers to then seem to marry and then discard as they got out of their teenage years.
Sadly, there's a handful of heroes of mine that have similar stories that I like to pretend don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I mean, this movie is still amazing, though.
Yeah.
Curtiz's part is really good. It is exceptionally well directed. I don't think that can be denied, and I think the more I experience Curtiz movies, I'm just so happy with the experience. Like I watched his movie Dr. X for TCM Fest, and that was a really great movie. And I wanted to watch his movie The Walking Dead, but that one's not available. But it looked amazing. And he's just so good. He even made, like I said, and I know you disagreed, but I thought he made Elvis into a great actor in that movie, which now escapes me off the top of my head. The New Orleans one, Kid Creole. I thought he did an amazing job directing that film.
Well, I also hate Elvis, so there's an element of that I'm bringing to the table. The Justin Bieber of 19 whatever.
Olivia de Havilland is still alive. Isn't that crazy? She's 101 years old.
Awesome.
And she might be dead. I'm not sure. She was 101 years old last year when she was being interviewed every 10 minutes about Feud. the TV series.
Nice. All right, let's move on to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Kevin Costner's blockbuster take on the Robin Hood tale from 1991. It co-stars Morgan Freeman and
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman, yes.
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater. The and just another Robin Hood movie. This is bad to me. I found it to be bad. I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to say that. I know a lot of people really like this version of Robin Hood. I just don't. I find this movie just to be strange, and the pacing is weird. Same story. Of course, Robin is this. Well, it's a weird. In the 1938 version, he doesn't go to the Crusades. He's still in England. This version, he's in the Crusades, and he gets captured and escapes, courtesy of Azim, played by Morgan Freeman, and returns to England to find that his father's land has been taken from him by the evil sheriff of Nottingham. There's no Guy of Gisborne is in the movie, but essentially there's no other villain than Alan Rickman as the sheriff, who's kind of taken on all the villain roles in this movie. They've also added a witch for reasons. He same story. He gathers up his various merry men who are going to help him battle back against the evil of the sheriff, who's taxing people and torturing people. And Alan Rickman is just chewing every last bit of scenery that you put a piece of scenery in front of him. He's going to chew on it as much as possible. It's almost disgusting. It's pig-like at times. He's just really gnawing on the scenery in every scene. His death scene where he takes the knife out, he holds it in front of himself, and he can't believe that it's the knife he gave to Mary, and he's got to fall down like 3 times before he dies. Just all over the place. I mean, did you notice? And I'm not saying this. I don't mean to say this in any weird way. There's just a lot of really intimate male hugs in this movie, which I didn't remember. There's a lot of which is, I guess, a progressive thing. Really, I just didn't realize there was this much of it. And there's a lot of those scenes in this movie where men are just very close and hugging. Which, again, I appreciate the level of male on male intimacy in this movie. I didn't expect to see that in a 1991 movie. There's a lot of it. It stands out. It is notable, and I'm not uncomfortable with it. I'm just noting that I just didn't expect to see that. Costner is just such a weird actor in this world because he's supposed to be English and he's not making any attempt to be English in any way. He's just full on Midwestern American. It's very funny. It's very funny to me. The action in the movie isn't particularly impressive. It's blockbuster style action scenes, but set in a forest in the 1100s. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is a very good movie. I don't think Kevin Reynolds is a very good director. I think Kevin Reynolds, his job is just to do whatever Costner tells him to, and to put Costner over like he's Hulk Hogan in the late 90s. Just make me look good. That's your job, is to make me look good.
But he did. I guess. I mean, here's where, because Backdraft was just a few weeks ago, and
right.
Here's why this is better than Backdrafts, because Kevin Reynolds, because his job was just to make Kevin Costner look good. Kurt Russell did everything Ron Howard asked. He was perfect in the movie for what Ron Howard wanted. And it's one of the worst Kurt Russell performances ever.
Yeah.
And it's not Kurt Russell's fault. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. This is more just, it's more fun in a loose way. Now, because of that, there's pacing issues. But I kind of enjoy when the actors take over. Now, it prevents them from being great. Don't get me wrong. But it's just a blockbuster. So because the actors have taken over and done what they want, I thought Alan Rickman was. I loved this scenery showing. It was memorable, and I'm also bringing years of this movie. This is a movie I've watched a ton as a kid.
Yeah.
So it's not one where I still know the lines. So when I go back, I'm not revisiting it. I'm just watching it again. I'm not finding out if it's any good because I have such a history with it, so I am bringing that with it. But it definitely it did what it needed to do. Again, that doesn't make it great, but I'll take this over Backdraft or pretty much
Sure.
anything Ron Howard's ever done.
A brief comparison to underline my point about how Costner is basically Hogan in the '90s is that where in the scene where Errol Flynn meets Friar Tuck, he's willing to put him over. Where he meets Little John, he puts him over. He lets Little John defeats Robin Hood the first time they meet in the Adventures of Robin Hood. Here, he has to win every time. He has to look good every single time.
But but it worked. I liked Hulk Hogan in the '80s, so it was, that's what it was. And when you put that, and then there's the unnecessary butt scene or whatever, which was, I mean, it was just kind of, it was clearly like, I want to show my butt in this movie, so put this in the movie.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio also is not the most expressive actress. She's not the most compelling. She just seems kind of sad. Olivia de Havilland, like, I bought her being into Errol Flynn big time. Like that chemistry in a couple of those scenes was really off the charts. And here she just seems she doesn't seem bored. She just seems like a typical damsel in distress throughout. And I know she does some action stuff, but I didn't buy any of it, and it didn't feel like she really bought any of it.
And I had such a crush on her as a kid that none of that really, all the context is lost. So I don't know how good or bad it was. I still go back to that memory of when I watched it when I was younger. And
Morgan Freeman, I mean, what does Morgan Freeman do in this movie exactly? I
mean, early on he's fun. And then out of nowhere, go ahead.
It's just, I don't want to call it, that phrase magical, but I mean, he is. He just happens to have the best. He happens to be the kindest, most noble, intelligent human being on the planet who has a solution to every single problem that they may have at any moment.
There's some funny scenes when, like, early on when he's praying, and I don't know. It's fun enough for what it is, that I think it works. But again, I'm bringing history with it. So
this is definitely the turning point for Costner, when his ego began to overtake his talent. From here on, it gets really, really bad. We'll go on to Waterworld and The Postman and all that trash over the next several years, and it's just going to be all out Costner ego fests after this.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny, we were talking Kurt Russell. The way their careers parallel each other is, Kurt Russell was possibly going to be in Bull Durham at one point, and they could have, he could have had more of the movie star career, and he never got it really till he ended up getting it a little bit later on, I guess, with Tombstone and Soldier and not whatever. But then they meet at 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
Oh, I wish they hadn't.
But then Tarantino and Rodriguez start, talking about the old Carpenter stuff, and he gets a nice comeback. And now my son knows Kurt Russell as Santa Claus and the guy from Death Proof.
I think I would take Russell as an actor over Costner every single time.
For sure. At the same time, I'll still take Costner and Bull Durham.
Bull Durham,
movie's so perfect that I don't need...
Untouchable, but yeah.
But no, I agree with you 100%.
As an actor, I think Russell's a better actor.
I think Kurt Russell was totally unaware of any success he's ever had, and that's kind of helps him as an actor.
He does seem rather egoless in that way.
Like, he has no idea that people love The Thing and Big Trouble. Like, I think he's just now starting to understand it now that his career is close to the end. And that's pretty cool in a lot of ways. He is kind of a right-wing nut job from what I understand. I heard on the Kate and Oliver Hudson have a podcast, and I asked them about how they handle political discussions, and they're just like, we just don't have them with pop, and that's how they get along. But I don't know. I've never really heard Kurt Russell say anything out loud in interviews. But anyway,
yeah, doesn't matter.
I don't mind Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, but I am bringing a lot to it. I do believe, though, if you're 5 years younger than me, or maybe not necessarily older, especially because Kevin Costner had a big fan base at this point. What about the Bryan Adams song?
Fuck Bryan Adams. I hate Bryan Adams. Now, part of that, I should say, I used to love Bryan Adams. I used to be a huge Bryan Adams fan. Waking Up the Neighbors is a record that I absolutely loved, but this song ruined my life for well over a year and a half while I was getting into radio in the 90s, because this song was I got into radio in 96, and this song was 5 years old, and it was still played so much, and it was constantly requested. And of course, I had to do weddings and dances as a DJ, and it's like, can you play the Bryan Adams Robin Hood song? I'm like, no, fuck, why? Please don't make me do that. I hate this. I hate it so much. I hate it. It's terrible, and I hate it.
Go ahead. I was gonna say Josh Adams, I think, is watching us. He goes, pretty ironic that Kurt Russell would be egoless, considered he literally played.
I was going to do that joke. I was going to do that joke.
Josh beat you to the point live. He's not even here. Yeah.
Tune in sometime and hear me and Josh doing radio together. Actually, we've been doing sports shows recently.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the first time I ever played music live on a stage. I learned to play it on guitar, even though it's a piano song. In like 6th grade or whatever, 5th or 6th grade, and we messed it up. The kid singing it messed it up, and I had to start over. It sucked. But I used to love the song, but then I was also a kid.
Yeah.
So
I hate it.
It did ruin. I don't listen to it anymore, but
I still have nightmares about it. That and the song that he did for the Three Musketeers with him and Sting and Rod Stewart, that piece of shit song.
I was old enough.
Fucking garbage.
I was old enough at that point to be over it, but I was young enough for this one.
So in terms of Robin Hood movies, like, I think Adventures of Robin Hood is a better, for me. I know you like this movie. I think it's a better movie than this because of Curtiz, but I don't really connect with any of the Robin Hood movies very well, aside from, and I know it's not a Robin Hood movie, but Robin Hood Men in Tights is my favorite presentation of Robin Hood as a character. Cary Elwes takes like the best things about Errol Flynn and parodies them so perfectly in that role. And it's just so much better than any other Robin Hood, aside from maybe the cartoon for me.
Yeah, again, I'm bringing so much history with this movie, and then I never watched Robin Hood Men in Tights. So, in fact, when that came out, I'm like, Kevin Costner didn't wear tights. What the fuck? So, but I totally acknowledge that I'm bringing being 10 or 11 years old when this came out to my opinion now, and watching it repeatedly for years.
Yeah, I actually saw I've seen the animated Robin Hood and Robin Hood Men in Tights before I'd ever even heard of Errol Flynn and the Adventures of Errol Flynn. So I'd never seen that going into those. So now I imagine if I go back and watch Men in Tights now, it's probably even better now.
I'm sure it is. And I might have to watch it just because, one, I've never seen it, and now having seen the Errol Flynn version, I'm sure I'd really appreciate it. I had seen the cartoon, and that was why it felt. And plus, anything with I don't know if Looney Tunes ever did anything, but Robin Hood's been such a pop culture character that it felt like I was seeing the movie for the 15th or 16th time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Bugs Bunny played Robin Hood at one point, and yeah, it's one of those things that just rob from the rich, give to the poor is something that both you and I believe in as a political strategy.
I used to believe in that. Now I own a company, so we're gonna see how that goes. Trump 2024. I am totally kidding. No, I'm with you 100%. But again, I don't. If you are going to go to blockbusters, though, I mean, you're right. Robin Hood's not. This isn't a go-to movie for me by any means. It just was for a while as a kid. But I'd rather go watch Die Hard or Lethal Weapon or anything else from that. I mean, I just think I was the right age.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles would have been. Right. I mean, but even in a lot of ways, you fast forward 10 years or whatever, and if I was 11 when Armageddon came out, I'd probably still defend that movie.
Oh.
This isn't much, but this is as stupid as that is in a lot of ways.
Well, so I think that movie's much stupider than this even, but
either way.
The Robin Hood movies that have been made recently, like I don't know what Russell Crowe was thinking with his version of Robin Hood. It was really dark, and it had like none of the fun, and he's way too old to play the character, and they're putting it into just the absolute wrong context, and he doesn't appear to have any fun doing it. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea. Sean Connery played Robin Hood in a movie back in the 70s. I've not seen that one, but it's called Robin and Marion, which I guess makes it ironic that here he comes back and plays the king in this movie.
Yeah, they're like, we got to bring someone back from one of them. Was Errol Flynn still alive when this came out?
Given the number of venereal diseases he had, I imagine he was dead by the 60s.
All right. Well, that is our show. How do I get out of here? Stop sharing. There we go. Come on, mouse, where you at? I have no idea how to get out of this thing. You see anything?
I just see Robin Hood.
There we go. I don't know. I can't see my cursor. I just want to stop the share. There we go. All right. Next week, we've got The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Is that the order of the words?
Yes.
All right. Fatherhood, the Kevin Hart movie on Netflix. The Serpent, Aquila's Escape. A Crime on the Bayou, a documentary. 1991, we got Dying Young, The Rocketeer, and Where Angels Fear to Tread.
I don't want to oversell The Serpent to anybody, but it may just be the Room of action movies.
Which room?
The Room.
Not the Academy Award winning one. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that one then. I watched a movie this week called Eat Wheaties. It's actually pretty fun with Tony Hale. It's about Tony Hale plays this guy who just kind of discovers Facebook for the first time. He works in an office, kind of an awkward guy, and they're having a college class reunion and they want him to be on the board, but in order to be on the board, he's got to sign up for Facebook. Well, as he's signing up for Facebook, there's people you may know as friends, and Elizabeth Banks pop up because she went to college with him. Like Elizabeth Banks, not the actress. I mean, the actress, but playing herself. And he keeps telling people he knows her, and they were friends in college. And so he just keeps sending her messages on Facebook. Well, he doesn't know that he's doing it on a post and not a message.
Oh, God.
And then he reaches out to her publicist to get an autograph picture for his brother. And it's very innocent. Yeah. But because of his, because of how, I can't think of the word, clueless he is to how Facebook works, he comes off as a stalker. So then he gets, oh my God, what's the word when you can't be around person? No, they put a legal
restraining order.
Restraining order. Their publicist puts restraining on him because they think he's harassing her. He loses his job. He loses everything over this. And Elizabeth Banks doesn't check her Facebook page, so she's not there to help him out. He ends up hiring Paul Walterhouse, is that his name? To be
Paul Walterhauser, from Cruella.
Yeah, to be his lawyer because he can't afford anybody else. And it's just kind of a comedy of errors type movie. It's not great, but it ends up being a lot of fun. I should I should have sold a little more, but it's just kind of it's just a fun little movie. I recommend it. Liza Cuthbert's actually really good in it. That's something you don't hear often since 24.
Wait, I read, but there was an article linked at the bottom, another article that I was reading that says she's not cast in Hollywood movies anymore.
I don't know. It was a fun little movie. I mean, you never heard of it, so that's how.
Where is it? Yeah, where'd you see it?
I saw it on Amazon. I couldn't get my wife watched the trailer to everything, and I'm like, I have to watch the Amusement Park, and I gotta watch these 2 Robin Hood movies. If any of the other movies look good, you will watch those, and she didn't want to watch any of them. And then Eat Wheaties just sounded fun, and it ended up being pretty fun. Now, sometimes you just like a movie and you find out it's bad later on. It seemed good at the time, so I don't. If you ever, I do recommend checking it out on Amazon.
They did a pretty terrible job of promoting it.
Oh yeah, and it's not a great title either. But and Sarah Chalk plays not the prosecutor, the agent of Elizabeth Banks. So it's I don't know. Is
Elizabeth Banks actually in the movie or
nope? You hear her voice at one point.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's I enjoyed it. But yes, before we go to Flickchart, head over to our patreon.com/criticspod to help support the podcast. And if you want some TeePublic merch, ihatecritics.net, and click on the right-hand TeePublic link up in the right-hand corner. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review to have a chance to win a couple of Blu-rays. And let us know at critics@ihatecritics.net that you left a review, and we'll read it on the air.
And I'll share my other podcast, Sean at the Movies. I've got an interview with Nicole Regal, the director of Holler, and the director Nancy Bursky, the director of A Curse on the Bayou, which we're talking about next week.
Awesome. Let's move over to Flickchart here. And now that Josh is watching, he can actually be upset by our choices.
So we pick against Alien every time.
Or Lord of the Rings. Don't forget that one. And maybe we'll play this. My cursor is not being kind to me.
Yikes.
There we go. I have to get a new computer. That sucks. All right. I Heart Huckabees, Batman Returns.
I Heart Huckabees for me.
Absolutely. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Grandma's Boy.
Eternal Sunshine.
Breakfast at Tiffany's, Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer.
Absolutely. Ugh. Pacific Rim, The Avengers.
The Avengers.
Now You See Me, March of the Penguins.
I don't know. I'd watch Now You See Me, like if you asked me to. Yeah. I appreciate March of the Penguins.
I don't think Now You See Me is bad. Josh says his favorite Robin Hood movie is Fight Club. And we are cruel. The Boondock Saints 2, All Saints Day, The 10.
The 10 isn't even a very good movie. It's still better than Boondock Saints.
Especially part 2.
Amen.
I would have picked over Boondock Saints as well, but part 2 is even worse. Eagle Eye, Rush Hour 3.
Eagle Eye.
Agreed. Shoot 'em Up, Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam, but I do have a secret love of Shoot 'em Up.
I agree. The Dreamers, The Sixth Sense.
The Dreamers should have been so much better than it is. The Sixth Sense.
Agreed. Rain Man, Matchstick Men.
Matchstick Men.
Still like Rain Man a little bit. It is Tails. Matchstick Men wins. Captain America Civil War, 13 going on 30.
That is way harder than you would think it would be. Captain America, but I love 13 going on 30.
I don't like Civil War.
Good for you.
I'm going 13 going on 30. And I win.
Good. I'm glad. It was very close for me.
Secret Window, The Best Years of Our Lives.
It's been a while. I'm not sure. I think
Want
I've
me
seen
to-
Best Years of Our Lives. I don't have you.
We'll
You've
just
not seen
remove
it.
it. I haven't seen it, so let's just move it. Secret Window, Tommy Boy.
Secret Window.
Yeah, I feel bad for not representing Tommy Boy, but I've never been a huge fan. Brand Upon the Brain.
Never heard of it.
Me either. The Pink Panther, Just Visiting.
Good God. Fishing with Gandhi. There was a point when somebody thought that John Reno would be a huge American comedy star. What was anyone thinking in 2001?
Josh called Civil War the civil wrestling match. I agree completely. I'm just going to read through both these because I don't have an opinion. District 9, Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes.
This is really hard for me because I do like District 9, but I really like Stir of Echoes too.
Stir of Echoes really underrated.
I agree completely.
Even without Kevin Bacon's dick in it.
No, it's District 9 because there's no dick. Splash, 12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men.
It's like Daryl Hannah's butt or 12 Angry Men. Caddyshack, Gone with the Wind.
They've actually digitally removed Daryl Hannah's butt.
I know. But it's definitely 12 Angry Men.
Caddyshack.
I agree.
Fuck Gone with the Wind.
Star Wars, The Last Jedi, The Maltese Falcon. I do love when classics come up against Star Wars.
Maltese Falcon.
Yeah. Although most Star Wars fans aren't upset that that Last Jedi lost. Tropic Thunder, Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Yeah. History of the World, Part 1, Sin City.
Sin City.
Agreed. Thor Ragnarok, Underworld.
Thor.
Yep. Star Wars, The Last Jedi, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Star Wars.
I do like The Last Jedi, so I can take my history and understand it properly. School of Rock, Natural Born Killers.
School of Rock, by a lot.
Absolutely. You heard the horrible news about
Yeah, that was terrible. One of the kids died.
Yeah.
He was really talented. He was
awesome. Well, my son's playing drums now, and he went and told his drum teacher about it, and his drum teacher already knew, and he goes, what got him into drums was wanting to be better than that kid went, because he was the same age.
Yeah.
It's just a sad story. Three Musketeers, Team America, World Police. This is fun for me.
You pick. I don't really have any passion for either one. I hate Team America, but I don't love Three Musketeers.
I love Team America. We talked about the song from Three Musketeers. So. Strangers on a Train, Deadpool 2.
I love Strangers on a Train, but I would actually love to watch Deadpool 2 again. I think that movie's fun.
I agree. There's some other Hitchcock that obviously would be would give me. Chinatown, The Conversation.
Chinatown. The Conversation's incredible, though.
I haven't seen it. Big Daddy, Saw 2.
Saw 2.
Read The Passion of Anna, The Wizard of Oz.
I don't think I've seen The Passion of Anna.
Neither have I. So let's go with Dances with Wolves, The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Because it's shorter.
It's better too.
It is better too.
Almost Famous, The Fistful of Dollars.
Almost Famous, our number one movie.
Yep. I do love A Fistful of Dollars. Other than Unforgiven, might be my favorite of the Clint Eastwood westerns. Pearl Harbor, Deuce Bigelow, Mill Gigolo.
The only time I might pick Pearl Harbor is right now.
You could have gone either way with that statement. I would have been like, I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see which one you were going to say. Fine, Pearl Harbor. I mean, in fairness, I should have gone Deuce Bigelow because it aimed lower and it wasn't as big of a miss as Pearl Harbor was. True. Last King of Scotland, The Believer.
Pearl Harbor has Affleck, so that wins.
That's why I'm not losing sleep over it.
The Believer for me. I didn't
Oh, I
connect with
like
last.
that movie.
I didn't connect with Last King of Scotland the way that a lot of people did.
Yeah, I thought the performance was good, but the movie itself was just a movie. But The Believer, I kind of enjoyed that a little bit.
Gosling's a hell of an actor.
Analyze This, Oblivion.
Oblivion for me.
I've never seen it, so I will let you have that one. I do love Analyze This, though. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Clueless.
Clueless.
I do not like the Spider-Man movies, and Clueless is actually pretty good. The Amazing Spider-Man movies, that is. Zootopia, Before Sunrise.
Before Sunrise.
Blade Runner 2049, Rango.
That is tough. Rango is a great movie. Man, I love Blade Runner 2040. I'm gonna go. God, I don't know where to go on this. Honestly, where are you thinking?
I'm leaning Blade Runner, but it's for lazy reasons, just simply because it's not a cartoon. But Rango is actually very, very good.
I think I'd Rango in my top 10, if not number one for the year it came out.
I love it. I just Denis Villeneuve is one of my top 3 directors right now. So I feel like out of loyalty to him, just want to pick his movies every time.
Let's let George pick.
All right. Yeah, Blade Runner 2049. But that was hard. What Dreams May Come, Friday the 13th.
I don't know. I don't really care for either one.
What movies should have talked about today? What movie's been forgotten?
Friday the 13th is remembered today, I guess.
I know it's not very good, but I like it a little better. Since you don't seem to care, I'm going with it.
Sure.
The 40-year-old virgin, the 40-year-old virgin, the Pink What the fuck? The Pink Panther 1964.
It's the 40-year-old virgin. I never understood what anybody enjoyed about the Pink Panther.
Kingdom of Heaven, King Kong.
King Kong all the way.
Absolutely. Twilight, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey.
I am told there's like a different version of Kingdom of Heaven that they assembled, like a director's cut version that's supposed to be a lot better, but I still I have no interest in going back and taking a look at it to find out. These are both garbage. I don't care.
I'll go Ron Howard on this one. I don't like to go with him, but he's safer.
Yeah,
it's just bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Ready Player One, The Happening.
Ready Player One wouldn't win many battles for me, but I would certainly pick it over that movie.
Right, The Happening. If M. Night was smart enough to follow Mark Wahlberg's lead in that one, that would have been a pretty awesome, fun little bad movie. But he tried to play it serious too much. Revenge of the Nerds, Hard Candy.
Hard Candy.
Absolutely.
Revenge of the Nerds has not aged well.
No.
This is the greatest matchup in history.
Yeah, it's Casper from 1995 or Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
This is actually Casper's origin story is Henry's Portrait of a Serial Killer.
I'm assuming we're going Henry.
Yes. I love that matchup. That was great.
Rambo, First Blood Part 2, The Assassin.
I've never seen The Assassin.
Neither have I. Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Enchanted. What Rambo Part 2? That was anything great that's ever happened in Rambo was from that movie. So just so bad. The first one's okay. Oh damn it, Enchanted ones. Like the one I actually wanted to win. Closer, The Tailor of Panama.
Closer. Both of these are really good movies.
Yes.
Mostly forgotten.
Yes. Cape Fear, Dracula.
Oh, wait, 1974. Oh, I thought it was the original Dracula.
Cape Fear's not.
It doesn't matter.
Cape Fear's not great.
Let's skip those. Saturday Night Fever.
Despicable Me 2 or Saturday Night Fever. Baby Doll or American Tail 5 Goes West.
I've not seen Baby Doll.
Princess Bride or American Tail 5 Goes West.
Princess Bride.
Absolutely. Hostage, Captain America, The First Avenger.
Princess Bride is the first time that Carrie always played Errol Flynn.
Yeah. And he never stopped in every movie he's ever been in.
I'm assuming, though, he's a better human being. I'm just going to get...
Oh, yeah.
Captain America. Hostage, though, might be the last time Willis was actually good in the movie.
Now you got me thinking. It was okay at the end of that M. Night movie before they did Glass. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Slither.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Fine. Okay. A Man Called Peter, The Ringer.
Never seen A Man Called Peter.
How to Train Your Dragon, The Ringer.
How to Train Your Dragon. Mediocre cartoon movie.
I agree. Deep Blue Sea, Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Yep. Crocodile Dundee, The Bank Job.
It's a bank job.
Mm-hmm. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, The Mist.
All right, you can have it.
Yes. Vertigo, Platoon.
Vertigo.
Absolutely. Hitman, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
They're both utter garbage. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days just because Kate Hudson's beautiful.
I agree. The Full Monty, A Walk in the Clouds.
The Full Monty.
Yes. The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Underworld.
Perks of Being a Wallflower is a really good movie.
Mm-hmm. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty.
Oh, good. I thought I was going to flip the thing.
I mean, I like Spider-Man 2. I don't love it.
I know, but
Amazing Spider-Man 2. I love him.
Yeah,
I love Spider-Man 2.
If it was Spider-Man 2, there's no question. Inner Space, Liar Liar.
Liar Liar.
Yes. The Revenant, Planet Terror.
Or The Revenant.
American Tail, Father Goes West, The Curse of Frankenstein.
I don't think I've seen The Curse of Frankenstein.
I'm going to do them both over again because I don't really give a shit about Father Goes West. The Ring, The Big Short.
The Big Short.
Absolutely. Austin Powers and Goldmember, Megamind.
Megamind.
Agreed.
Goldmember is the worst Austin Powers movie.
Holy shit. Ichi the Killer or Willow.
It's Ichi the Killer.
It is. Let the Right One In, Sex in the City.
I've actually watched both Willow and Ichi the Killer in the last month. Let the Right One In.
Absolutely.
That poster for Sex in the City is better than the Sex in the City movie.
Yes, it is. Eyes Wide Shut, On the Waterfront.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, we need to make both those a classic sometime soon. Hancock, Howard the Duck.
I like laughing at Howard the Duck. Hancock's not good, but it's better than Howard the Duck. So
I think the first half of Hancock is pretty solid.
Yeah, good idea there, but
right. Get Out, we flipping 4.
Get Out.
Yeah, much as I enjoy the bad we flipping 4. Get Out, pretty amazing. Encino Man, White Chicks.
Encino Man.
Really?
I hate White Chicks. I think White Chicks is unfunny, just incredibly unfunny. Encino Man isn't much fun either, but I would rather watch that than White Chicks.
Yeah, but that Eric Andre movie kind of made White Chicks have a little bit of life.
I get what you're saying, and I remember the actual theatrical experience of White Chicks. But I was actually watching was it Austin Creed New Day, their podcast, and they were actually talking about how great White Girls is.
It's funny. I've never seen White Chicks. And Encino Man, I didn't hate it when I was a kid, but I only watched it the one time in the theater. Hunger Games, Judge Dredd, 1995.
Hunger Games.
I agree, but I did defend Judge Dredd for a long time. Gorgeous, Mr. North.
I have not seen either of those movies.
I'm thinking of Ending Things, Fierce Creatures.
I'm thinking of Ending Things. That movie just gets better the more time I spend thinking about it.
Yep. Speaking of movies that get good, this is a good one to go out on. Old Boy or Citizen Kane?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really good. Citizen Kane.
I'm gonna go Old Boy. I mean,
the experience of Old Boy is coloring everything because it was such a wonderful show experience.
And although it goes with Citizen Kane, I wasn't, I have to go back and kind of read about it. I didn't get to experience, so I don't have, So you're right. So I enjoy the experience of Old Boy better. So let's flip it and see how we end the show. Let's see. It's heads.
Oh my God! Wow.
It's kind of bad. It makes our podcast. I apologize. I know what Josh would have picked. My guess is Citizen Kane. Yeah, that's our show. Thanks for listening, everybody. I will see you next week. Anything else before I hang out?
Dude, just check out Sean at the Movies so I can you can hear my conversation with Holler director Nicole Regal, and get ready for next week's show when we talk about the documentary, A Crime on the Bayou, which I've got 2 documentaries that are dropping this week that are about some incredible pieces of history. Also this week, I'm going to be dropping a review of a documentary that's debuting on Nat Geo on Friday night and on Hulu as well. That's called Rise Again, which is all about Rise Again, the Red Summer, and Tulsa. And it's about the ungodly amount of violence that Black people suffered in the summer of 1919 that led to the Tulsa riot of 1921, in which 300 Black people were murdered. Innocent people were murdered in the streets. And President Biden is going there to Tulsa this week on Tuesday to be there for the 100-year anniversary of this. It's still happening as we speak. This story is still ongoing because they're uncovering mass graves of Black people in Tulsa. And it's a story that's just not talked about nearly enough. And I've got an interview dropping next week with one of the subjects, Deneen Brown, who's a Washington Post reporter, who's at the center of this documentary. And both those reviews will be up this week. And yeah, so it ought to be a fun show next week.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, though, that hasn't been talked about a lot. Now that it's turned 100, it seems like it's picking up another life, though, because I'm hearing about it a lot lately. So that's, cool if nothing else. Cool is not the right word, but it's good.
It's good that somebody's talking about it. Yeah.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. All right. Yeah, let me know when you have a classic. And
yeah, I'll come up with something.